What's up, everybody? This is Karak with ACG, and welcome to another discussion video. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about Bethesda's decision to basically neuter the review process for all of their titles moving forward. Now, this is something we saw originally with Doom, where they basically didn't give out their reviews until the day prior, their review copies until the day prior. And so I think a lot of people just assume that this was something that they tested out with Doom. Hey, it worked and we'll move forward. But it's not. First of all, I want to say one thing you can remember is a couple months ago, many months ago, in fact, I discussed this on both podcasts as well as Twitter and in different videos where I had heard rumors that there was a major shift when it came to reviews in particular and from some of the major companies. Bethesda, of course, now we know is one of them. There's two others as well. What do I think about this? Well, first of all, so that you can understand where I'm coming from as a YouTuber, if I only cared about views, this is the greatest news possible. One of the reasons is this. Usually when a game gets a review copy, what happens is one to three things. First, major companies like IGN and Gamespot get it earlier than I do, and I get it a couple days prior to release, and they either have more time with it or the reviews are early. We all get them at the same time prior, or there's some mixture in between. What happens, though, is that many times my reviews as a reviewer come a little bit later than the major companies, or I have less time with it than the major companies. And so what happens there is many times where their review is out and mine is playing catch up all the time. It's really a situation in which you have things like IGN first and so forth. So here now, what they're basically saying is at minimum, I'm only going to have one day until I can buy the game, start working on a review, or we're all going to get it a day prior. In fact, the day prior situation probably means more people will get review copies because there'll be even less of a reason to sort of watch who's reviewing it and who's doing it if they just have one day to basically put out some data. But here's the problem. It's completely, utterly anti-consumer. If all I cared about was that, this would be great. But it's actually the reason I started the channel was the anti-consumerism I saw sometimes within the game industry, and certainly how I saw pre-releases and preview events and stuff like that. So we have this situation where basically Bethesda's effectively neutered the review process. Now, this shouldn't be surprising to anybody who follows Bethesda because PR-wise, publisher-wise, they're actually terrible. This is something that's been known for a long time in the way they handle particular things. This is also the company that thought paid for mods would be good. And this is the company that currently right now is falsifying reviews on Dishonored 2 on their Steam page. Go to their Steam page and they're pretending that comments that were made at E3 were basically in the review section. Now it does state what they were, but they're still in the review section on Dishonored 2. That is really, really dishonest. It's just distasteful in any way you slice it. It's not good. There's no really explaining out of it. It's just bad. And in fact, as somebody who is involved in multiple different entertainment avenues that don't just involve games, I was talking to people last night in those other avenues of entertainment, and we were laughing because the fact that this has happened would simply never occur in those other entertainment venues. Now, that doesn't mean that occasionally a movie may not get screened because people are worried about it, or some tracks may not be dropped by a musician because maybe people are worried about the quality. This kind of full-scale cut simply wouldn't happen. It actually became a laughable joke just because we were all so shocked by it. And my shock sort of turned to embarrassment this morning. I know some of the people at these different companies, and frankly, the fact that somebody had to make this decision and think that it was okay is ultimately embarrassing for an industry that sort of is known for its interaction between publisher and game creator, between publisher and game player, between developer and game player. We discuss player interaction at all times. We discuss the importance of players and what they think at all times. And then we go out and we effectively neuter one of their buying decision tools. You know, when you look at it, you get a lot of people who may say, I don't need reviews. I'm okay. I make up my own decision. Well, great. You've effectively elevated yourself completely out of this discussion. And by doing so, it doesn't magically mean somebody is lesser than you. It actually means someone's different than you. You know, we can't celebrate individualism and then at the same time say, why isn't everybody doing it exactly like I do? It's not what happens. So we have a situation where we basically neutered the entire review process for Bethesda titles. How are we going to move forward with this? Well, for me, like I said, I'll just continue doing reviews. In fact, if all I cared about was views, I hope all the companies do this, but I don't. I would rather have the occasional time where I get effed over than have this situation where everybody is doing those reviews a day prior. And here's why. Because a smart PR person looked at that situation and realized one of two things. One, this is going to call into question every single review. How much time did the reviewer spend? Is it going to speed up their reviews and so forth? Now, if you are sort of hearing me and you think, man, has he said this before? I did. A couple months ago, I said that many publishers are looking for ways in which to call into question any review that is considered negative. Now, I had noticed this almost a year ago, where a couple reviews that I had seen for games that were negative immediately had developer or publishers posting on it saying, well, we're patching that. In fact, NDAs I have signed state, we may patch whatever negative experience you have the moment the game goes live. Any negative experience. Talk about a complete pancake statement. It's like everything is included in this statement. Any negative experience you may have may be patched out, which calls into question, should you put it in your review? Of course I did, because fuck them. I don't believe in that shit. But when it comes down to it, you still have a situation in which publishers are going to do their damnedest to call into question anybody with a critical voice towards their titles. Now, this is something that we've seen happen in other industries from time to time, where there's a little bit of thought control that attempts to be had by particular larger entities, but it always ends up going away due to consumer doubt, and usually due to some kind of consumer rebound. Will we see that in games? I'm not quite sure. Bethesda is always known to be really shady on the publisher side, so it's not something that's going to be magically known by many. But when it comes down to it, you have a situation in which we continually identify as an industry that really loves its individuality, that loves its interaction between game maker and game player, and yet at the same time we're doing our damnedest to make sure we remove some of that, and I really find that sad. Additionally, I have to say, since the return process isn't great for these various systems, I'm really not happy about that as well. We have a situation where, let's say, PSN, as I'm sure you guys are aware, there's multiple issues with people being blacklisted from PSN's support because they try to return pre-release games. Now, Sony's pretty open about you can't try to return a pre-release game. You can't try to get your money back from those prior to their release, which already is anti-consumer anyway. Luckily, everybody else allows that. But additionally, if you get a return, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you look it up, if you get a return for any reason from PSN, you cannot get another game returned for the same reason. It's crazy. So if the category for your reason is, let's say, I lost my left arm, so I can't play the shooting game. If another game comes out that effectively requires your left arm, you will actually not be able to get that return. It's just absolutely anti-consumerism. Now, we have this kind of situation that's occurring all over. It's sad, it's shameful, and it's just really downright embarrassing. It's one of the few times where I've actually been truly embarrassed, because I know some of these people. I know some of the people on the publishing side, and I certainly know people on the development side. And I'm telling you right now, I don't know of a developer who wakes up and says this is a good idea. And in fact, I reached out to 4 or 5 that I know, two of the big companies I think are going to do this, and they were completely shell-shocked by that idea. And unfortunately, I have a feeling those two will actually be shell-shocked by their own company's changes as well, as we see in the future. So anyway, it's a unique situation. It's really sad that we see it. It's completely without reason. There isn't any good actual factual reason other than more corporate control. You can't defend it or explain it away. That's the one fact that we have here is, less choice, and it's bad, and that's unfortunate. But anyway, that's it for me. Those are my thoughts. I'm not too shocked because, as I told you guys, I had been thinking about this and known about it for almost 6 months. So it's one of those situations where, unfortunately, I wish I had been proven wrong. Peace out and enjoy the rest of your week. And you can give it a thumbs up if you like it.